Hey, it's Kevin. Thanks for coming by. It's another No BS social media chat. Today we're going to talk about levels of engagement. When I was in radio, we learned something very quickly, and I'll try to equate it, and it may fall deaf on you depending upon how old a car you've driven in. Back in the old days, imagine your car radio, and it used to have those little preset buttons. There were usually 4 or 5 of them, little white buttons on an old Volkswagen radio or something like that. And you were able to set up your favorite radio station on the preset number 1 and your second favorite on number 2, and you'd be able to quickly punch between radio station and radio station. Sure, now we've got 36, 86 channels, whatever it is, on our radio, so it's not quite the same thing. But when I was in radio, we used to talk about really 3 levels of listenership. P1, the primary listeners, the big fans, the ones who'd have you on their butt number 1. P2, who were, well, you weren't their favorite radio station, you may be their second favorite radio station. And then P3, where it's like, well, if my other 2 favorite radio stations weren't playing something I liked, they'd come to you in a pinch. A lot of times with country music radio, it wasn't everybody's first or second favorite format. It may have been rock or top 40 or even adult contemporary, and then country may have been third. That was just kind of like a flavor and a spice. But you had to understand that you had 3 types of listeners. The people who, no matter what you said, what you did, would fall on every word you said. The P1 listeners, the ones who lived for your radio station. The P2, who were interested but weren't paying as close of attention, weren't always with you, so you had to make sure to repeat things often. And then the P3, the people who came by only frequently, so you have to make sure that they were engaged as well. Well, when I made the switch from radio into social media, I think the one thing I noticed quickly was they were very similar with that whole P1, P2, P3 mentality, where it was all about engagement levels of your fans, your followers, your friends, whatever you wanted to call them. That people had different places where they engage with you in their mind. A lot of times people put up a Facebook and say, man, I got a lot of Facebook fans, but they don't seem to really get involved when I do something. It's like, well, maybe you have a problem with you don't have a lot of P1 fans. You're not their primary artist, business for whatever, or even media type personality. But they may pay attention to you every now and again. So you have to make sure you engage them in a certain way where you can't just throw it out there once and expect anybody to care. Again, the people who are really big fans of what you're doing, what you're bringing to them, will pay attention and will be right there. The people who are only somewhat engaged with you, you may have to beat them over the head a couple of times. And then the people who are what I call the P3, the ones who are out there who only come by every now and again, well, you may have to hit it up a whole lot more. But it's a delicate balance of making sure to know how much to touch on a subject. It's one thing like when I tell an artist when they're getting ready to release a new album, new single, whatever it is, you can't just stop everything you're doing in life and promote that and that exclusively. Because what happens is the P1s, the people who are into it, already know it's coming, already bought it, they're there the first day, they're the ones buying it. The P2s may come along quickly, but you're going to start upsetting all those people because, yeah, I know. You're too worried about that fringe element, that P3 element as we call it. And while you're trying to serve them, you're trying to build up those big numbers, but you're upsetting the apple cart. You're upsetting the true honest ones. I've always said when it comes to music, if you look at the history of recorded music, whether it was the Beatles, whether it was Elvis, whether it was Bruce Springsteen, Madonna, Prince, Michael Jackson, Garth Brooks, they all had a big, huge peak. And it's almost like a bell curve, where it's like not every album sold 30 million albums for all those artists. There was usually 1 or 2, sometimes maybe even 3 peak albums that sold those huge numbers. But there was always a build-up. Their first couple of albums didn't sell as much, and they kind of ramped up to it. And then after that peak point, they kind of ramped down a little bit. And they'd have a 30 million selling album, then all of a sudden the next one would only sell 11 million, and then 5 million, and then 2 million, and it was kind of like a bell curve. Well, what they were doing is they were reaching all those P3 people when they were at the height. When they were selling 30 million albums, they were reaching all the people, P1, P2, P3, and those people are engaged. But usually the P3 listeners, the P3 fans, kind of fall by the wayside first. Well, because you're not that important to them. And other things come up, it's like, oh, it's almost like, hey, shiny thing, oops, what is this? And they start paying attention to something else. So those people are going to come and go all the time. So while you want to focus on those primary fans, you want to focus on those important fans, the P1s, you got to be conscious of the people who are coming in and out of your career, in and out of your business, who aren't paying total attention to you, but try to find the balance. So think about your fans in terms of engagement as to some are going to be on everything you do, some are only going to be on a portion of things you do, and then some are going to come and go. And those are the people you kind of watch for, kind of hope they're going to be there, and really try to structure what you do to make everybody happy. It's not an easy task. It was not an easy task in radio. So I always told people, a radio station with a 10 share of the audience meant 90% of the people weren't listening, and they were successful. A baseball player hitting 1/3 of the time is a huge success. So it's understanding the market, understanding the nuance, and doing the best you can with it. Think about that. A little bit more nuance today, But if you think in terms of your fans and your followers and your friends and what their engagement levels are, it's going to help you go a long way to being more successful. Back next week, another No BS social media chat. NoBSSocial.com, the website where you can find all the videos. We throw them up on YouTube, throw them up on Facebook. And of course, you want to get a hold of me, talk more about it, talk about any subject when it comes to social media. Want to talk about the weather, want to talk about, I won't talk about politics with you, that's pointless. My email, my phone number, they're coming up here at the end of the video. We'll see you next week, another No BS social media chat. Thanks.